it's Lily, back with another video on intentional living. And it's been a while, so thanks for hanging in there with me. A little update on my fall down the stairs, for those of you who don't know. Here's my scar. I don't know if you can see it, but it's very small. So I'm healing nicely from that, and I had a big schedule change over the past couple weeks, so I'm dealing with that, and along the way just trying to be gentle with myself and just let everything adjust the way it's supposed to adjust, and then frequent check-ins. And yeah, so just a reminder, I need subscribers. I still need subscribers in order to get the custom URL. So help me out with that. If you feel like these videos are helping you and you want to be notified whenever I post another one, which clearly is not going to be on a regular basis, so you might need that little reminder, then go ahead and hit subscribe. And I also encourage you to leave comments in the comments section. If you have a moment, just let me know what spoke to you, maybe what you would like to hear more of. And of course, you can always reach out to me directly at wordsbylily@gmail.com. Okay, so that's the stuff to get out of the way. What I wanted to check in today, I was thinking, you know, I didn't have any like grand ideas or plans as to like some wisdom to impart. So I started thinking about how does being intentional or living intentionally, how has that actually influenced my daily life? So I just thought it would be good to get really practical, especially for people that are interested in living intentionally, or maybe have started living intentionally and are looking for more ways to elevate that practice. And again, just as a quick reminder, when I say living intentionally, what I mean by that is that you have a set of values that you've chosen, not that have been ascribed or prescribed to you. You have your own set of values, and those are the values you live by. And in order to do that intentionally, you make decisions by checking in with those values first. So to take a look at how intentional living is playing out in my life, I've been living intentionally for about 5 years now. And of course, very gradual process. But the journey started about 5 years ago when we moved to Connecticut. So just to take a look at some of the ways my life has shifted because I chose to live according to values. And I think obviously the best way to do that is to start with the values. So I chose, I have a lot of values, and they shift from year to year, from month to month. They shift depending on circumstance. But there are three, I guess, core values of mine that I've really hung on to since all of this began. And the first one is positivity. And I have to say that the reason positivity is so powerful for me, and is such an important part of my life, there's two reasons. One is that I experience clinical depression, which I'm on medication for and occasionally seek therapy for. And I do lots of other things as well as part of those coping mechanisms. And thinking positively is really a huge antidote to clinical depression for me. Because one of the aspects of clinical depression that was most debilitating for me was the lack of hope that you often feel when you're clinically depressed. So positivity is huge, a huge antidote to that. And then even outside of that clinical depression, I often say that I'm a born cynic. for whatever reason, early circumstances, personality, etc., family dynamic, I chose to kind of see the seedy underbelly of life, and really just a natural sort of like rebel, you know. Um, and positivity is a great way to keep an eye on that side of myself, and to make sure that I'm not falling into that um, falling into that role of the dissenter without, good reason. So, again, I want to talk about the practical ways, like the everyday choices I make that fall in line with these values. So, and I think this is important because with intentional living, it doesn't necessarily result in like these huge, I mean, sometimes it does, but it doesn't have to it doesn't have to revolve around these huge changes in your life, leaving someone or getting a new job, quitting a job, starting a magazine, moving cross country, working for yourself. There are a lot of things we hear about that are big, but really for me, intentional living is about those everyday choices. The choices that you make in the car on the way to work, or the choices that you make when it's time to go to the grocery store, or when you're really tired and your kids want your attention. So, or when you're deciding between should I shower or do a YouTube video. So everyday choices that maybe aren't about, grand shifts, but what they are about is life. Life is made up of these small everyday choices. And the overall, like the huge quality of life can really shift, not in a physical way, but in an emotional way, if you're making these small intentional choices. So for positivity, it was easy for me to come up with tons of stuff. So so I kind of categorized them. So positivity influences decisions I make about the external things that I allow to affect me, and it also influences the internal things I allow to influence me, like the conversations I have with myself, and then it influences sort of the person I want to be in the world, who I want my kids to see me as. So some practical examples of the external influences. An easy one is music. My musical tastes have shifted really dramatically in some ways. In other ways, not so much. I've always loved folk music that's, where the focus is on the lyrics and they tell a story. None of that has changed. But what has changed is I prefer to listen to music that is going to make me feel good. And listening to, song after song after song about heartache, heartbreak, inequity, failed relationships. So much of really good songwriting is about loss. And frankly, I choose not to listen to those songs. As a blanket choice in my life, I really want to listen to songs with positive lyrics. And I'm one of those people that I can't listen to a song and ignore the lyrics. I'm hearing them and they're affecting me. So when I am in control, when I am choosing music for myself, not when I'm like out and about or whatever, or when the kids, take over Spotify, but when I'm choosing for myself, I have playlists that I've curated based on a mood. So if we're going on a road trip, I have a playlist for that is appropriate to that situation and also contains positive lyrics. And I have found that makes a huge difference in the way I approach the world, the way I feel. Even I guess my morning wake up song is, fun and upbeat. And it makes me smile. So the first thing I hear in the morning, I'm smiling rather than, So music is a huge one, and I just can't encourage you enough to, as a first step, just start paying attention to the music that you listen to as a whole, and see if the lyrics, when you kind of put all of those lyrics together, what is the messaging that you're allowing to enter your brain? Because music has a huge effect on our lives. Another external influence that I've edited heavily is Facebook, and I am approaching this from a place not of someone that has left Facebook or doesn't trust Facebook or et cetera, et cetera. I love Facebook. I have met some really great friends on Facebook, like really good friends, and I use it as a tool to connect to people that I want to get to know better in real life. I don't get my news from Facebook. I am not friends, or I don't follow people whose Facebook feeds would be upsetting to me. I try not to get lost in rabbit holes. So curating my Facebook feed has allowed me to stay on there, enjoy my time there, minimize my time there. And, when terrible things happen or when disheartening things happen, which they will, I don't have to live in a bubble. I mean, I'm aware of these things, but during those times, because of the importance of positivity in my life, then I have to balance out, anything that's popping up in my Facebook feed that might be negative. Maybe I have to up some of my other positive influences or something like that. And another thing I do on Facebook is I put out positivity. So if I share something, I try to only share or post my own thoughts that if they're uplifting. Try. Because I feel like there's a lot of negativity already in that space. So that's something that I can bring to the table, is positivity. And then another external influence that has shifted greatly over the past few years is what I read. And for a couple years, actually, there in the beginning, I really, truly only read books that were 100% uplifting. Whether it was a self-help manual that was written in such a way that actually made me feel positive, spiritual books, sort of memoirs that landed in good places, stories of women empowerment, and really just, I would say for 2 years I only read things that were really uplifting, including The Perpetual You. I have this is one of the things I started reading. It's 100% uplifting. And yeah, I'm an avid reader. And I just decided that, reading something that wasn't going to make me feel good at the end of it wasn't worth my time. And I still sort of feel that way. I believe now that I've been living intentionally long enough, and I've been living with positivity long enough, that I can read a book, a memoir or a nonfiction that does include, real everyday facts of the world, which aren't always going to be positive. For example, I recently read a book called Rage Becomes Her. It's not a positive book. I mean, it's about women's anger and sort of like all the reasons why we're uncomfortable being angry, and it doesn't end on like a happy-go-lucky note. I mean, this is a crisis in our country, and at this point, I'm able to read that and know that I have enough other positive influences that are balancing that. And I can take my time and go through that. Another good example is White Fragility, which I recommend everybody read, especially if you're white. You must read White Fragility. Again, not a positive book. This is a crisis that our country's going through. But it is a book, I guess that a supportive book. So maybe that's another difference. But yeah, I just don't spend my time with either chick lit or, throwaway novels or classic literature that doesn't make me feel good at the end of reading it. And I'm okay with that. So, internal influence mainly is about self-talk. So the conversation that you're having with yourself. And you probably know this already, but you have several different voices in your head. I do. And so one of the great exercises I did with a friend who was doing a group coaching exercise, was to kind of pull apart those different voices inside my head, give them names or what's their dominant character quality. And that was good because I came up with like 5 or 6 different internal voices, and really dove deeply into the roles that they play. So you're probably most familiar with like the cheerleader versus the critic, and those are certainly probably present in everyone's head. But there's more. You can really, play this out and maybe put yourself in a certain situation, and it's just not as black and white, I found, as like I have a devil on one shoulder, angel on another. There are different voices that show up during different situations. Certainly the cynic for me shows up a lot. And again, that's when I want to hit it back with positivity. Self-talk is so, in intentional living, self-talk may be like one of the highest priorities. Self-talk as in reframing your self-talk. And I can only speak to women's experience. So I know for women that all of the external influences practically, and just so much of what has been in front of us and in our heads and in our world since we've been growing, is damaging to our self-esteem, and is harmful and is negative. So reframing self-talk. So what happens then is you internalize all of those external things, and you start thinking things like, I should color my hair because it's, I have a gray streak, or maybe I should start, shaving my legs this summer, even though I never have before, or, I can't go to the grocery store without putting on a little color on my lips or wearing a bra. Those are my, I guess those are my challenges. It's just what reframing self-talk does is really, I think in the beginning, poses a question rather than just accepting that self-talk. Oh, if I'm going to the grocery store, I have to wear a bra. So rather than accepting that, I think it starts with questioning. Okay, do I actually need to wear a bra to go to the grocery store? And then over time, as I discover what is my real answer to that, what is my real opinion on that, not what everyone else is telling me, but how do I personally feel, then I get to the place where okay going to the grocery store without wearing a bra. Um, and so then at this point, you know, fast forward 5 years, when I think, oh, I should put on a bra, because that's how ingrained it is, even after, you know, years of choosing like when I need to and when I don't need to, and when I need to look professional and when I don't. I'll still have that thought like, oh wait, I have to put on a bra before I go to the grocery store. This is such a funny example. I didn't plan on talking about this example. Hopefully someone out there can identify with this. So yeah, so even now, years later, I'll have that thought like, oh, I can't go to the grocery store before I put on my bra. And now I don't really have to question it anymore, because I've already made this decision a million times, right? And then I can just automatically correct myself. Actually, it's not important to wear a bra when you go to the grocery store. And then move on with my life. That is, again, like a very kind of a silly example, but, you know, it's one of many ways in which I've reframed the things I tell myself, just to make sure the things I'm telling myself are what I actually believe, not what other people believe. And again, a reminder about intentional living is that the end result sometimes is the same. So that's a good example in which I may have gone to the grocery store with no bra, because, you know, whatever, I didn't want to put one on. But if I hadn't gone through the process of making that decision according to my values, then a lot could go wrong with that. I could feel guilty or shameful while there. I could choose to leave my coat on even though it's uncomfortable. You know, I could berate myself while there and then feel shitty the rest of the day. You know, so again, intentional living, sometimes the end result is the same, but the difference is in the way you feel. And so I can, you know, hold myself up high, not wearing a bra, because this isn't a situation in which I need one. Period. Okay. The last thing I want to say about positivity is the last, or an additional daily practice that I have adopted in order to cultivate more positivity is the practice of mantras. I think mantras get a bad rap because self-help gets a bad rap. We kind of look down on it because for a long time, and maybe this is still true, I don't know, but I guess traditional self-help books were quite misleading. And the concept of, maybe I'll do a video on law of attraction, because the concept gets misconstrued and yeah, often. It's something, you know, that you really have to study and practice. It isn't as simple as, well, I'm going to manifest something and it's going to show up in my life. And so I think mantras got roped into that whole kind of like icky self-help genre. Because people were saying things like, you know, I am wealth, and then they expect to become a millionaire. And that's not the kind of mantras I mean. But I do think, again, that words have power, particularly if you're someone like me who does love words. Then that's even more of a reason for you to choose to surround yourself with words that make you feel the way you want to feel. Another thing that gets a bad rap, I think, is just positivity in general. And mantras are totally wrapped up into positivity, because mantras are usually positive. Why would we write a mantra that's like, you look A-okay today? You know, it's like, you look great. You know, you look beautiful. That's your mantra. So there's an idea that positivity is sometimes false. That if we don't actually feel beautiful, then telling ourselves, I feel beautiful, is a lie. Again, maybe that's a different video, which I would love to talk about. But for the time being, I will say that mantras are an important part of my daily practice of positivity. I do try to choose mantras that are true. When I pick back up with this subject in the next video, I'm going to talk about another value, which is honesty. So maybe we'll revisit this issue. But I choose mantras that are true and also that make me feel good. And mantras also, it's helpful if your mantra is, memorable. So in some instances, that means maybe it needs to be kind of short. Not necessarily always the case. When I read quotes or anything from a book, even if it's a single word that really touches me, that really speaks to me, then I try to write it down, post it up somewhere. But outside of that, I sort of have, I have little mantras around my house. I hang them up places where I'm going to see them often, like the bathroom, the kitchen, my office. And I mean, the great thing about mantras is, you don't have to have a PhD to write your own mantra. Like, you don't have to go to school for this. You just have to sit with yourself and have a conversation. Like, how do I want to feel when I'm standing in my kitchen pouring my third cup of coffee? What's the feeling I want to have? What do I want to be reminded of? Well, in my kitchen, I have a truth bomb from Danielle Laporte that someone gave to me that says something along the lines of, anxiety directs your attention to an illusion. So, when I'm in and out of my kitchen, then I have this daily, even more than daily, this really frequent reminder of like, hey, check yourself, basically is what it says. Are you focusing on something that's real, or are you focusing on your anxiety, your worries? And then, I can ask myself and have that conversation with myself, or I can kind of ignore it and go on about my day. But either way, those words are influencing me positively. Same thing in my bathroom. If you've been to my bathroom, you know that it's covered with mantras that remind us that we're beautiful. And because of the place I'm at in my life, I don't think that's a lie. I think I am beautiful, whether or not I wear makeup and whether or not I have a scar from falling down the stairs or my hair is dirty. But I do need that reminder because I'm not, there are societal standards of beauty that I don't ascribe to. So there can be some, some friction there. So having those daily reminders of that is very useful because, again, the external influences are still coming as much as I try to keep them away from myself. So again, it's just mantras are a quick, easy check in. Say, oh yeah, I am beautiful, or I'm looking good right now. And I love mantras for both for their permanence and for their temporariness. I mean, you can adopt a mantra for a day if you need to, One of my mantras, whenever I'm feeling overtired, which means I have more trouble getting to sleep, which is totally fucked up, but that's the case. One of my mantras is, I trust my body to know, I trust my body to know, to carry me off to sleep or something like that. So I can sort of pick that up whenever I need it. If I'm super tired but I'm having feelings of insomnia, then I can go back to that mantra. But I don't need to say that to myself every night. One of my long-standing mantras, I forgot it. it just came into my head and then it went out. So that's words, that's mantras for you. I'm sure it'll come back to me when I need it. I do write a mantra every year. When I choose my word of the year, I write a mantra to go with it. I program it into my phone at 11:11 because that's a magical time of day. So it's a good time to remind yourself of whatever hopes, dreams, feelings you have and want to have. So my daily mantra for this year is, my vulnerability allows me to listen with wisdom and compassion. So that one's a little bit, I worked a long time on it because I knew that I was going to be seeing it and saying it every day. So I really wanted it to be special. But a mantra can be something as simple as, I am enough, or I trust myself. I have this, you got this, that kind of thing. Like, yeah, I have this. One of my mantras for a long time when I looked in the mirror was, this is what Lily looks like. And maybe that doesn't sound positive to you, but that was way more positive than the things that I used to say when I looked in the mirror. Yeah. So that is part one of what will likely be a 3-part series of my going through my core values, my long-standing values, and discussing the practical ways they influence the practical decisions I make in my daily life in order to cultivate those values. So that was positivity, and we'll talk about clarity eventually, and we'll talk about honesty next time I get a free 30 minutes to come and talk to you. So again, would love to hear what you have to say about any of this. Would love to hear your core values, what you think about positivity, if it's total bullshit or if it's changed your life. Leave it all in the comments or send me an email. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for listening.